Yes, some questions?
Indulekha Devidashi sends a question.
Indulekha from Salt Lake?
From Salt Lake City, I believe.
Yeah,
I don't know where she is now. Dear Maharaj, I know that probably this question has been asked many times, but could you be so kind and explain what's the difference between Gyana-shunya-bhakti and blind faith?
No, maybe not asked so many times. Blind faith is, at least in the English language, it's a cliche. Right? But like all cliches, why have they become cliches is because there's some element of truth in them. Element of truth is a cliche. But so blind faith means to blindly believe in something without vetting or proper consideration. So it's become synonymous with fanaticism, blind fanaticism. So what is left unsaid but implied is that blindly accepting something that may not be valid or real or true. So even Srila Guru Maharaj will say, blind faith is unhealthy. Because we just say, well, but in Krishna consciousness, shouldn't it be all right? But he begins by saying, blind faith is unhealthy. Like sometimes it's said because the Braja-gopis, they're girls and they're teenage girls and they're simple-hearted, and sometimes Guru Maharaj says silly, half uneducated, silly jungle girls. So someone say, well then the position, female position is better. And Guru Maharaj is saying, well, not necessarily. He's saying that one of being submissive to another, giving support, lending to another. It's good if it's toward someone who's worthy. Blind faith, if it happens to be towards what is real or substantial, then it won't be the cause of our undoing. But Guru Maharaj says, so blind faith is unhealthy. Right? Meaning that. But then when we come to Gyana-shunya-bhakti as a description of the higher section of liberated souls, knowledge-free devotion. Devotion that's not contaminated by the need to know. The need to know can also be indicate suspicion, doubt. In one place, Guru Maharaj says, suspicion leads to suspension. Right? We were talking about this earlier. We can, if we doubt so many things in this world, that may be a legitimate position in the world of illusion, the world of exploitation, to have our doubts about that, to not put our faith and trust in that. But it's, say, one of the undesirable consequences of Gyan is to become suspicious of everything, even when we're in connection with the real thing, with the truth. Guru Maharaj gave an example. He said, like, if it reaches the stage where a baby, there's the mother, on the lap of the affectionate, loving mother, the baby saying, what if her breast milk is poison? Then we've reached an unfortunate position. If a child is saying, maybe my mother is poisoning me, right? Then suspicion, doubt has reached the extreme position, meaning even, and taking it, this is an example, Because we can say, well, there was on the internet, we're not talking about that. We're giving an example where the mother is loving and affectionate and supplying nourishing substance. But in this case, that doubt, interrogation, suspicion leads to the suspension of faith or belief and the possibility that there can be someone, there can be a plane that's beyond doubt and suspicion and that requires interrogation. In this world, we think, no, everyone needs to be vetted. And we can make a case for that, say, well, actually, it's the world of exploitation. It says in the Bhagavatam, Jivo jivasya jivanam. One living being lives, you live here through exploitation. One lives at the expense of another. Right? So, and what is Guru Maharaj saying? That Kant, the philosopher Immanuel Kant, he would say that the only pure good in this world is like goodwill. Everything else is contaminated. And Guru Maharaj said, but we would have to question that also, even the so-called goodwill, because it's extended selfishness. There's an egocentric world. I'm measuring everything against my own desires. I'm measuring the relative value of anything, accepting myself as an absolute center. That's egocentric existence. So for the egocentric, to extend goodwill is extended selfishness. So can a plane exist that is beyond doubt or suspicion? Right? That's the contention of Krishna consciousness, that such a plane exists, that the absolute is that personality who's beyond doubt, suspicion, and interrogation. So Brahma, he says, in the Brahma Stuti in the beginning, near the beginning, Gyane prayasamurapasana eva. Give up trying to interrogate the infinite, trying to measure him with your intellect, to analyze him, to verify him with your intellect. And begin what? Here, the process, stanestita srutikatam tanuvan manobir. Whatever your position is, begin by hearing from his agents. Hearing from them. Krishna conception can be transferred from the hearts of the saints into the heart of those who appreciate their message. You see, that's the way to begin. But within that realm, told even in the spiritual world, the Vaikuntha world, the lower hemisphere, Vaikuntha, Guru Maharaj said there's some element of calculation, right? Of a calculative mentality. And even as we go a little higher, when we hear the pastime of Krishna's headache, right, it reveals the position of calculative devotion. When Krishna says, Narada Muni sees and Krishna says, I'm suffering from a headache, and the only thing that will cure my headache is the dust from the lotus feet of my devotee. Please get some feet dust from my devotee. They're in Dwaraka. So what does Narada do immediately? He approaches the principal queens of Krishna, and he's asking them, that saying Krishna is suffering from a headache, he needs some feet dust from a devotee, and he said that will cure him. And there's a little calculation going on where they're thinking to take the dust from our feet and put that we can't do. That will create an inauspicious future for us. So this shows, we're going higher and a more refined conception of this, but it's just some element of calculation about their own welfare and well-being. And then they say, and Narada, you are a devotee, give your feet to us. Then when he thinks about that, he's thinking of the inauspicious results of doing something like, he leaves, return, and Krishna there, give me the fetus, hurry. And Narada is saying, no one is prepared to give it. Why? They're thinking it's not good for them in the long term. You may get some relief, but they'll be put in an inauspicious position for disrespecting you in this way, taking the what's generally considered a filthy thing, and then it's unthinkable to them. The inauspiciousness awaits them in the aftermath of such a thing. Then what does Krishna say? Go, Sharanam Braja, go to Braja. And ask Braja-gopis. When Narada arrives, Braja-gopis say, how is Krishna? And Narada saying, generally everything's going well. Reality is for itself and by itself. The divine will is going on. But at present, Krishna is suffering from headache and said he needs feet dust from the feet of a devotee. That is the only thing that will cure him. And those gopis start saying, here, take my feet. No, take mine, take mine, take mine. I don't know if I'm a devotee or not, but take. And he's saying, aren't you afraid of the consequences? Doing this, that an inauspicious future awaits you, eternal hell. And they're thinking, we have no such consideration, just whether or not Krishna will get some relief or not. That's all we think about. So there's no calculation on their part. That's what is meant by Gyana-shunya. They're not blind. Only they see, really. Premanjana churita bhakti vilochanena sandak sadeva hridayeshu valokayanti. Only when someone's eyes have been anointed with Krishna prem are they fully seeing. No blindness on their part, but no calculation. How they move, it's not calculated from a knowledge perspective, but from heart. So as we make reference to beauty over power. It's also substance over form, mercy over justice. But another is heart over intellect. So we're told heart rules Vrindavan. A reversal takes place in Dwaraka, where intellect, and by this we don't mean to insult them by saying Gyan in the ordinary sense. We're talking about a higher type of analysis. But still the reversal takes place. So intellect is holding a higher position than heart. Right? So, and do not think offensively for a moment about Dwaraka, the queens of Dwaraka, etc. This is a type of analysis, that's all. So heart reigns supreme in Vrindavan. So what Guru Maharaj said something, peculiar and mildly amusing once when he said, Krishna likes to surround himself with ignorant people. And I thought, what can that possibly mean? Because we hear Vrindavan is for the highest section of liberated souls, the most exalted personalities, right? The omniscient group, Sarvagya, the people who know everything. And now Guru is saying, Krishna, he likes to surround himself with ignorant people. He's speaking with irony, right? Dramatic irony. What does he mean to say? People who don't know that Krishna is God, that's not in their constant awareness. What is referred in the beginning of Chaitanya Charitamritam as Aiswarya Gyan. Like Aishwarya, sometimes, very often, it's rendered as opulence. But that's a kind of an abstract word or nebulous word, opulence. I mean, it's correct up to a point, but here, more to the point in this context, I'm saying, is the word majestic. Right? So it's saying, it means, divinely, majestic to a divine degree. So here's the point. If those people surrounding Krishna are aware of his divinity, then how can they interact with him as equals or superiors? Right? Even in this world, we find this tendency, like where Krishna Kanta deity is coming from. Was a town nearby, Como, right? And there's some lakes there, like rich people live there. So the actor, George Clooney, he bought a villa there or something like that. And at the time, so everyone knows he's famous, he's internationally famous, handsome, and wealthy. He's like Bhagawan. What is Aishwarya, Samagrasya, Viryasya, Yashashashviya, Gyana Vairagyayos Chapi, Shanan Bhaga Itigana. He has some of the Bhagawan qualities, right? Fame, beauty, wealth, and other things. So, but what he does, what does he want? When he went there and was contemplating buying this place and living there, he met with the townspeople, the local leaders there, and he said, I'd like to live here, but if I live here, I just want to live here as one of you. I don't want any special treatment. I just want to merge with your group of, and just be like, one of your friends, family members, like that. I don't want special treatment. I don't want at every moment someone thinking, oh, he's that famous actor and all of that. And the people said, no problem. So he moved there, and he could mix with the people like an ordinary person. That's what Guru Maharaj means to say. So think of it, and not just I'm saying this, it's in the Bhagavatam, a favorite sloka, actually, of Prabhupada, and it occurs in the 13th chapter of the 10th canto. And I mean, what's noteworthy, it's the last thing he translated. He went up to 10:13, around there, and then 10:14 and onward were done done very nicely by his disciples. But mystical things about Prabhupada's connection with it's not coincidental, we can say. But this verse, what is it? Itam sukham Brahma sukhanubhutya dasam gatanam bharadevatena mayasritanam naradarakena sakyam vijahru kritapunya sakya. So perhaps it's Parikat Maharaj to Sukadeva Goswami saying when he hears about the intimate relationship between Krishna and the cowherd boys, that as we hear in other places, whose yagya bhuk means he only eats the remnants of sacrifice. It's mentioned in Brihad Bhagavatamritam and other places. So normally that's the Vedic system. They have the big yagya, they make the offerings, and then there's the offering, and then there's prasadam, the remnant. Normally it's a big deal, right? The mantras, the paraphernalia, the qualification of the people engaged in these sacrifices. And what do they see? What was Muhyanti Atsuraya? Bewildering to Brahma, beyond the comprehension of his intelligence or his gyan, to see that Yagyabhuk person, the Parabrahma, the Supreme Reality, God, the Supreme Absolute Truth, sitting on the banks of the Jamuna River as a like 5-year-old child with a little stick for herding cows in his belt, a little bamboo flute, a lunch box from his mother that his mom made in the morning. All the other cowherd boys, their mothers made lunches in the morning before they go off to herd the cows. Heart-melting pastimes. And we could say, ultimately Brahma's heart was melted, but his mind was blown, right? His foreheads. It's like, and what Krishna says, no mijate vabra abra vapuse taridambaraya gunjavatangsa paripichala sanmukhaya. Kavalabetravasana Lakshmashmiye Mridupade Pashu Pankajaya. And normally you would expect God or the king to be wearing a big crown and holding a scepter and sitting on a throne. And Krishna has a peacock feather in his hair. A very nice one, we should say. Because we're told the peacocks sometimes approach Krishna and ask him to play his flute. The peacock says, hey, could you play? And Krishna, all right. He plays his flute. The peacocks start dancing madly. And afterwards, they're so happy. Then they're offering peacock feathers. And Krishna will take one and... So he's wearing a peacock feather. And the garland of forest flowers, the stick in his waist, the flute, and in his hand, in his left hand, is some food, and he's eating like that, surrounded by his friends, and they're laughing and joking and eating and playing games, and Brahma's saying, that's God. He's saying, I can't believe this. He has 4 heads and he's riding on a celestial swan. He knows how to make planets, do all kinds of things. He's saying, and he sees what really he finds upsetting is that these gods and Krishna just performed one of his pastimes, the killing of Aghasura. Another cliffhanger where the devotees, the Gyana-shunya-bhaktas, marched into... If they'd been thinking about it, who would march into the mouth of a giant serpent? Some of them were saying, is this some kind of an amusement park? Someone else said, I think it's a giant serpent with his mouth open who's about to devour us. And others saying, well, Krishna's here, what could go wrong? And they start singing and dancing he's with a giant mouth. His tongue is like a road. His teeth are different. He's done a lot of bad things, eaten a lot of bad stuff too. That smell is coming out. And so they're singing, dancing on their way in. And he's with his eyes are getting bigger. Because Kamsa was thinking, these cowherd people, they're so attached to Krishna. If we just capture Krishna, then they'll all drop dead in separation. He's really a terrible person. That's his strategy, sending these people. Putana, the other one, Bakasura. Baki means Putana, Bakasura means that evil crane, like duck, but crane, that Krishna bifurcated. And Aghasura's other name is Baki, Bakanuja, because Anuja means the little brother, the whole family is rotten. who is his brother and sister? Putana and Bakasura. And now he's got the task. But anyway, so because Krishna entered there, and then that, because he's waiting, he's like, sometimes it's 8 miles long, giant head, and then all the cowherd boys enter, but he's waiting for Krishna to enter. Krishna's the last one. Looking out and seeing, and Krishna's thinking, oh, the way Yoga Maya works is just amazing. So he's even admiring Yoga Maya, Leela Shakti, how they do all these pastimes. It's so wonderful, even he's admiring it. And then he enters. And then Aghasura closes his mouth and he thinks, at last I have Krishna inside. And what he's saying is true. He's saying, now that I have Krishna inside of me, I'm perfect. I'm fulfilled. I'm happy. I'm satisfied. What could be better than this? Yam labdva chaparam labhan manyate narikam tataha. But then Krishna, he's also Yogeshwara, means nothing to him, anima, mahima, prapti, all these. Krishna starts expanding himself inside, and then he's getting bigger and bigger until Krishna's matching his form. And it's like the life airs, like people like to talk about the chakras. The life, they're like getting pushed upward, upward, upward. Generally, if you had a choice, you want to leave from the Brahma Randran, top of the skull, to go out there. The yogis who leave from there go upward. Mouth to heaven, they're liberated. And there are other gates on the body. I don't think we need to discuss it all. You can imagine. Lower, lower, that kind of thing. I mean, it's not funny if you're dying or recently dead. But so Krishna starts expanding, and then it's like the soul of Aghasura is raising on a line here, goes to the top of the head, and then it appears in the sky like a little piece of Brahma Jyoti, because that's what it is. Jiva Shakti in that position. And then they see that it goes, this light brighter than the sun then merges into the body of Krishna. And then all the gods and goddesses of the heavenly planets who are watching this, they start singing and dancing and playing musical and showering flowers. They're in celestial airplanes. They're having a giant celebration of this. It's extraordinary enough to hear about it, talk about it. And to a certain degree, it's according to the capacity of the speaker, hearer, etc. It's a living thing, live streaming Leela. But imagine those who are qualified enough to observe this. The devas, so they're having a giant celebration, and it's so loud in the subtle world that Brahma's on Brahmaloka, he hears this. And that's what he's, what's going on? And gets on his swan and goes, and when he sees this, that all these adults, and real adults, gods and goddesses, they're besides themselves, ecstatic joy, singing, dancing, showering flowers. And there's Krishna, this little boy with the peacock feather, and giggling, laughing, playing games with his friends on the banks of the Jamuna. He's thinking they've all lost their minds. Right? Muhyanti Atsuraya. Even the gods are bewildered. Those with godly, gyan, knowledge, intellect cannot decrypt Krishna's human-like pastimes. And then we know Brahma, he's thinking. It's called, this pastime called Brahma Vimohan Lila. Vimohan means illusion. So he thinks, Brahma thinks, well, if I steal, and Krishna, he's still got the calves. He hasn't, what's that pastime? The one where he gets gopastami, where he gets promoted, the cows. It's before that. So he's taking care of calves. So there's all these beautiful calves there and his friends. And Brahma thinks, if I steal them all, probably he'll cry. So, where are my cows, my friends? Like, let's see, the little boy will probably break down crying. And then we'll see how these gods and goddesses react. So Brahma steals the calves and the cow boys and hides them in a cave on Brahmaloka, and then he looks and he sees all the calves and the cow, they're all there. That's the beginning of his bewilderment. And he's saying, wait, I took them. He looks back on Brahmaloka. And we can think Brahma, he's like middle-aged by this time. Maybe, he's losing it a little bit. He's thinking like, no, I know I did this. He looks back on Brahmaloka, sees sleeping in the cave, or the cowherd boys and the calves. Then he looks back on earth and Vrindavan and sees there's Krishna surrounded by the cowherd boys and calves. And now and so he looks with greater scrutiny. And then he sees, actually each one of them has 4 arms. And they're not only they're 4-armed Vishnu forms. And he keeps looking deeper and deeper. And then he sees like everyone is worshiping Krishna. And then he sees like blades of grass are like, they're dancing back and forth. And they're worshiping Krishna. See, the wind is worshiping Krishna. The water's worshiping Krishna. Subtle thing. The directions, everything's singing the praise of Krishna. And Krishna's sitting there, still 5 years old, cowherd boy. And then Brahma, this is becoming too much for him. And he's realizing something like, and all, I thought Narayan, famous verse, Narayanastam nahi sarvadehinam atmasya atmashakshi, something. He started talking about Narayan, saying, it was easy for me to believe he's God, with his 4 arms and Vaikuntha. It's very majestic. That I can understand, that I know. But this, and then he, in his prayer, says, he said, you're very difficult to see. It means, it's a poetic expression. Abra bapu means like the complexion of your body is like a monsoon rain cloud. So it's very, this dark beauty is very difficult to see. He said, but tadi dambaraya, tadit means lightning, and ambar means dress. Saying, but your yellow dress is contrasting your dark black beauty and revealing you. So Guru Maharaj, in his famous explanation, and that's again original wealth from Guru Maharaj, saying, the Tadidambar, the lightning dress, this is a reference. When you're dressed in your Shakti, your potency, Ladini Shakti, Radharani and her extensions, Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavitabis, Tabirja Eva Nijarupataya Kalavi, Goloka Eva Nivisata Kilatma Bhuto, Govinda Maripurusham Tamaham Bhajami. When you're dressed in your potency, then we can see you. So it's a secret. It's consistent throughout. He's saying, dressed in that way, then you're revealed what your actual position is. And that famous look, my advice, stop trying to measure him with your intellect. Stop trying to know him with your mental prowess, but accept the path of hearing about him from those who love Krishna, Krishna-loving people. So just like that actor said, I want to live, for what'll make me happy. If I know it gives you a big thrill to see, the big movie star, famous, wealthy, all that. But what would give me happiness is just to be your friend. Right? We hear wealthy people, they will complain, the wealthy or the fantastically wealthy, beautiful, they will complain that people want to know them for other reasons. That's Aishwarya-gyan. This is what Gyana-shunya is about. They're saying they are making some relationship, but really they can't stop thinking you're one of the wealthiest people in the world. And that's why they want to know them. So Krishna is saying, so someone who wants to have a relationship with God, right, that sort of is a non-starter. God meaning the majestic aspect of divinity, who owns everything, who's controlling everything. You're thinking, it'll be good for me to have a relationship with that person. Maybe I can get them to swing things my way. Right? Then it's karma kanda and jnana karma dhyanavrtam. But pure devotion cannot have any ulterior motive. So when Guru Maharaj said Krishna likes to surround himself with ignorant people, he means to say with those who they have so much loving affection for Krishna that the majestic aspect of his divinity is eclipsed by their heart. It's far into the background. And sometimes in this world we see that someone, the president of a country or the prime minister, or the person who's in the, relatively speaking, the supreme position, their children don't see them that way. Their mother doesn't see them that way. Their wife doesn't see them that way. Why? On account of love and affection. So their presidential identity or majestic identity goes into the background, is suppressed by love and affection. So that when we talk about Gyana-shunya-bhaktas, Guru Maharaj is being ironic when he says they're ignorant. Because we find in other places, like the Braja-gopis, when they are playing with Krishna and exchanging clever words and poetry and teasing and whatever it is, their expressions show that there's no one who can surpass them in terms of intelligence or knowledge or understanding. But they're posing this way because, in a role, the Guru was saying, the king's son may play a pauper. It doesn't mean that the king's son has become poor. He's playing the role of a pauper. So the Braja-gopis, when this is to enhance the sweetness of their pastimes with Krishna, but actually they know everything. But that type of knowing is not gyan, the information, the data that gyan normally refers to. So sometimes Guru Maharaj will mention we have gyan, vigyan. Gyan means knowledge, can mean mundane knowledge. Vigyan, transcendental knowledge, spiritual knowledge in general. But then pakrishta gyan or pragyan means the highest type of knowledge and understanding. I'm reminded of that. It's maybe slightly off topic, maybe not, but there's a principle here where Guru Maharaj told the story of the mullah who's giving his talk and this lady in the audience. And the mullah, as he's speaking, he sees in the back, she has tears coming down her eyes. And he is speaking. And then afterwards he says, what was it about my talk that moved you to tears, that you found so moving? And she said, I used to have a little she-goat who was very affectionate to me, and I had so much affection for her. And the little she-goat, she has a little beard, a she-goat. He said, and when she would eat her food, she would move her head in a certain way. And when you speak, you move your head like that. It reminds me. So not like that. I'm giving that as an example of not. They are not sentimental. They're not getting worked up or emotional over the wrong thing. It's not like that. This suppressed knowledge or expressed ignorance is, we could say, in full knowledge of the supreme absolute truth. It's only to allow, to not obstruct the raga bhakti, the natural flow of love from the heart. That's why, the purpose. To the degree that one is aware, Aiswarjagan, of Krishna, then there'll be some obstruction. And Rupa Goswami describes these things in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, where he gives an example. That's why all those examples there are so perfect, and why they're there. So when Krishna comes out of Kaliya Hrad after dancing on Kaliya, the successful conclusion of that pastime, you can say, different cowherd boys, according to their age, equal, a little higher, a little lower, they come forward, they're embracing Krishna because he's just been saved from the clutches of death. But it's mentioned some cowherd boys, they had this impulse to hug Krishna. Their bodies, they wanted to hug Krishna. But then they remembered who he is, and they suppressed that. It's mentioned in a similar response, Vasudeva and Devaki, who are entirely worshipable, but the Acharyas mentioned they're a little hesitant after seeing what Krishna and Balaram did to Kamsa and the wrestlers and everybody. It was hard to ignore for them. So even after such a long time, their son was taken away as a baby, and now he's come back. They're a little restraining themselves. Whereas Nanda Maharaj is on record saying, if you could prove to me that Krishna is God, it won't change how I feel. He's my son, and I need to take care of him. That's what I know. You can present so much proof, and I don't care for that. It can't check the feelings I have for him. As Yashoda with Krishna. Showing all the universes in his mouth for a moment. She went, But then hearing the cat cry, Krishna's clutching Yashoda, and she's, my boy. And think whatever she saw, that left. Hallucination. It's not going to obstruct her natural flow of love for Krishna. That's why. Because you think, why would it be like that? So in the play, if you're having a play, the actors, they have to forget other aspects of their identity to play those roles, don't they? And it's not just a game, but rather it's everything is believable to the extreme. So if in this world, an actor can be praised, win an Academy Award for just, what do they say, totally immersing themselves in this role. And they'll say, and such actor, even when the cameras weren't on, he's like this 24 hours a day for 4 months. Sounds a little crazy, but there are people like that. There's some, they turn on the camera, they change. There's other ones like, they go into character and stay there for the whole, for a month, 3 months. They say sometimes their relatives, wife, say it's annoying. But they can do that. They've so far suppressed this other identity. It's a crude example, but we should be able to understand something from that. So it's not the fantasy, but it's something real. And for the full flow of the heart to be there, cannot be obstructed by knowing too much. These things are mentioned in the beginning of Chaitanya Charitamritam, in the early chapters of Adi Lila. And Krishna says there, I'm paraphrasing, but he says, by the mercy of Yogamaya is what allows all of this to happen. The gopis will see me as their paramour, and I will... He's here speaking in a first-person sort of analytical way, acknowledging this. Yogamaya will allow for all of these type of relationships. So what are those people here in the world, the famous, beautiful people saying if I could just find somebody who loves me as I am, not because I have this much money, I own this, I have a position, none of those things. So what do? Sometimes they like to move in disguise. So Krishna, what is the Prakriti Lila of Krishna? The infinite, disguised as finite. So he can talk to us, how are you? How was lunch? I've got indigestion. Mahaprabhu gets indigestion sometimes. Then a devotee comes and, oh, thank you, I feel much better now. Then it allows for all these sweet transactions to take place. The raising of an eyebrow to indicate surprise. All the subtle, we think, it just doesn't mean physical, human-like imagery, but everything that goes with it. The subtleties of relationship, that's the beauty, and the beautiful complexity of Vrindavan. Like those cowherd men saying, I think Krishna is some kind of a god or God himself. And others saying, I'm thinking like that sometimes too. But then he says something really crazy, or nonsensical. Or if we ignore him, his feelings are hurt. And he's always hankering for our affection. He's so needy. Then that takes them in another direction. That's and we say, oh, that's what we know. Krishna Rajateka Kela Sarvatam Naralila Naravapu Tahara Swarup Gopa Vesh Venukar Navakishore Natabar Naralila Hoyanurup. Human-like pastimes are the perfect ones. And human civilization is based upon that. Krishna's Aprakriti Leela provides the template for humanness. Any other question?
Maharaj, can we make parallel between those three types of faith, like blind faith, analytical, and Gyana-shunya-bhakti, and three types of devotees, Madhyamachari, Kanishthadhikari, and Uttamathikari?
Yes. The Kanishta, third-class position, called komal, not like kamal, like lotus, but komal, means soft, pliable. So it means it can be influenced. That's why it needs to be lagu, means light, guru means heavy. Lagu needs to connect with guru. Tasmad gurum prapadyeta jigyasu shreya uttamam. Shabde pare chanishnatam brahmanupasamasram. Who's heavy with spiritual understanding. How heavy? Guru said, heavier than the Himalaya. Because I said, when I was reading the Bhagavad Gita in the very beginning, when I was a teenager, and I'd get this part, and Krishna would say, of this, I'm that, of that, and I was saying like, oh, when he says of mountains, I bet you he says, Everest. And then it said, of mountains, I'm Sumeru, Meru. I was like, no, I thought it was going to be Everest. And then, because Meru is like more exalted in that sense, heavenly. But then it said, of immovable objects, I'm the Himalayas. So what did Guru want to say? Guru, heavier than the Himalaya. And Sandeep will be here tomorrow to explain to us how we should pronounce Himalaya. But anyway, heavier than, it means, what are they known for? Immovable. That's another, not just heavy to the point, cannot be moved. Like all the rain, the snow, the wind, they don't move. Right? Hare Krishna. That's what I was telling you about before. Not looking for food. Right. Anyway, all along the way, we could say, they will be very happy at the return of all these insects. Cannot be moved by any misconception. So lagu, like Guru Maharaj sometimes say about the shikha, means different things. One is, he said, we've been told, take the shikha, tie to the lotus feet of Guru. So when the winds of misconception are blowing you left and right, you're tied to the lotus feet of your Guru. Cannot be moved. By who cannot be moved. So why did I say that? Lagu, Guru, you said, Madhyam, Kanishtam. So the position of a Madhyam Adhikari, we can say, just to go back to the original thing, moving away from blind faith to being able to discern what's being given in the scriptures, becoming acquainted with scriptural knowledge, right? That type. Shastra chaksu, seeing through the eyes of scripture. Remember, ultimately, we told that about hearing, seeing through hearing. Ashe shrutekshita pato nanunata pungsang. That's the spiritual way. So the madhyam means the analytical position, studying, but in weighing and measuring and assessing the value, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says it's also a dangerous position. They may make a mistake, and in that error commit an offense, and that offense could be very damaging to their spiritual progress. So he gives the caution. The second-class madhyam analytical position is a dangerous one, to be extremely cautious. Guru Maharaj is always saying that. That's why he'll go, dial nitai, dial nitai. He said, maybe we were just discussing something, looking at something, analyzing it, and Krishna consciousness inevitably tends toward the higher, and that means more opportunity to more seriousness for being wrong or in error. As Guru Maharaj said, Upasiddhanta comes to strike the spinal cord of the thinking man. Right? Why? Mahaprabhu can't hear it. Srup Damodar won't let it go to his ear. The Mahavadanaya avatars come to save everybody. If he hears Upasiddhanta, he becomes angry because it's meddling with the higher. Higher you go up, the stakes become higher. The consequences are higher. In the baby stage, it's not. We're told the baby puts his feet on the mud. You shouldn't touch and put your feet on someone. That's an offense. If it's a baby, it's okay. It's tolerable. But you can't be 14 years old and doing that. Hopefully, right? Should grow out of it. Anyway, but interestingly, Guru Maharaj says, from the third-class position, one can bypass that second-class analytical position and go to the first-class position by serving the Mahabhagavata. Because whom you serve, the devotion that is within their heart is transferred to the heart of the servitor. So they can bypass that position. That's also possible. And just to make a point, in other places, like Guru Maharaj, if we say Gaudiya Kantahar, quoting elsewhere, was that Achinoti Yashastartam, the Acharya Stapayapi Acharati, saying what is an Acharya's, how do we recognize who is the Acharya? They're extracting the inner meaning of the scripture. But Guru Maharaj say, this is a divine delegated function, position. And he says, not everyone in Vrindavan is like Acharya material. In other words, doing that. He said, Yashoda, she's not often, what we read, philosophical, just to make a point. He's saying, but when something comes from the heart, he said, a volcanic eruption from the heart of Yashoda, hearing that, everyone is upgraded. This service and this role, this plane of an Acharya, extracting the inner meaning of the scripture for the benefit of others, that's some divinely delegated power. So, in other words, I'm mentioning this at this point to say, it's not that we expect every devotee will engage in intense scrutiny and analysis of the scriptures, pastimes, etc. In fact, that may be more rare, we see. But everyone will relish hearing about Krishna and the pastimes of Krishna. Just like, to be healthy, you eat vital foodstuffs, right? I always remember, in German they call it Essen. Reminds me of what is essential. Anyway, you take in these things and that's increases your vitality. Someone may be able to, a nutritionist, may be able to explain what's in the nutritional value of what you're eating, what happens when it enters the system, how it's digested, how it's distributed to different parts of the body, and why it gives you strength, energy, vigor, vitality. But it's not necessary to be able to understand and analyze that in that way. That's their job to do that. You can still get the benefit of ingesting what is vital and being nourished by that substance. So sometimes in the expression, these Gyana-shunya-bhaktas, when they say something in these pastimes, it's just very sweet and charming and doesn't sound ostensibly philosophical, but it's more profound. Okay. And to make the extreme point, what do we find in Charitamritam? Krishna saying, what makes me happy? He said, when my friends approach, he said, if your sentiments for me, your love and affection for me are restrained because you're too much conscious of my position, Aisvarjagan, I'm disappointed. But what captures my heart? When my friends come and say, you're not such a big man. I bet you I could defeat you. Let's wrestle. That makes him happy. He said, if my beloved, she's cursing me. He said, Radharani cursing me, that steals my mind away from the reverential hymns of the Vedas. So he's saying, her curse is sweeter than all of this philosophy. So ultimately, heart culture. Hare Krishna.